Welcome to the deep dive. You know, sometimes the most important insights, the real nuggets, come from places you might not expect.
Absolutely. Like ancient rule books.
Exactly. Today, we're doing a fascinating deep dive into one of those, an ancient Buddhist monastic rulebook. Specifically, we're looking at Saṃghādisesa 5. It's from the Bhikkhuni Vibhaga.
Which is a section of rules just for Buddhist nuns.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. This isn't just about some, dusty old regulation. What we're going to find is a very human story. There's a nun involved. Some really intricate details about what constitutes a serious offense in that context. And ultimately, what it tells us about things like community, perception, discipline. And it all comes from something as basic as accepting food.
Well, what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how these ancient texts really give us this vivid window into the human condition. It's quite remarkable. They show how these, incredibly complex rules often grew out of very real, very human situations, everyday interactions.
Right.
So our mission today really is to understand not just the rule itself, the letter of the law, so to speak, but the context, the nuances. We want to give you a kind of shortcut to being well-informed on this, this piece of history and, frankly, human behavior.
Okay, so let's set the scene. Picture this. We're in ancient India, Savatthi, the Jetavana monastery.
A famous location.
And there's a nun. Her name is Sundarīnandā. Now, the text specifically mentions she was very beautiful, good to look at, and pleasing.
That detail is important.
It is, because apparently her appearance started causing a bit of a stir, particularly at mealtimes.
Yes, the source material tells us that in the Tagi, that's the communal meal hall.
Okay.
People would see Sundarīnanda, and they'd become avasutta. Now, this Pali word avasutta, it's really key here.
What does it mean exactly?
It means they were, sensually infatuated, desirous. Their minds were attached in a very worldly way.
Ah, okay.
And because of this infatuation, these individuals, it seems, consistently gave her the agamagani bhojana,
Which is
the very best food, the choicest portions available.
Okay, and I can see where this might lead. This is where the community aspect comes in, right?
Exactly. Sundarīnanda would eat her fill yavadatai bunjate, the text says, which, sounds fine.
On the surface, yeah.
But the problem was, anyapi kunyona chtarupaila panti. The other nuns weren't getting enough food, or maybe not the good stuff, because the best bits were all going to one person.
Because of this, perceived favoritism driven by infatuation.
Precisely. And as you can imagine, some of the other nuns, especially those described as apicha,
Meaning?
content with little, not having many desires, those nuns started to complain. They were murmuring about it.
Understandably.
Their issue wasn't just, she's getting the best food. It was the implication. They questioned how she could accept and eat food directly from the hand of a Pursapugala.
A man.
A human male, yes.
Yeah.
Specifically one who was clearly, infatuated with her, a Vasutta.
And this got back to the Buddha.
It did. And when he heard these complaints, he looked into it, confirmed it was happening, that Sundarīnanda was indeed receiving and eating food from these infatuated men. And he condemned it. Said it was improper, basically bad for the community's harmony and its reputation.
So this specific incident, this very human story with Sundarīnanda.
Yes, this situation led directly to the creation of the Saṃghādisesa rule we're talking about today.
So the rule itself, in essence, says that if a nun accepts and eats food directly from the hand of a man who is sensually infatuated, and she herself is also infatuated at that moment, then it's a Saṃghādisesa offense, a very serious one.
That's the core of it. It's quite specific.
It really is. And what strikes me is how incredibly meticulous they were in defining all the terms. They didn't leave much ambiguity, did they?
No, the precision is actually quite striking. You take bhikkhuni,
Right.
that just means any ordained nun. Simple enough. But then avasutta, infatuated the rule, hinges on whether both the nun and the giver are in this state.
Both. Okay.
And Pursakugalo, the human male. It specifies a conscious human male capable of this feeling. So it excludes, say, non-humans or someone not mentally capable of infatuation.
Wow. That level of detail really shows they were thinking deeply about, human psychology and how things play out in a community.
Definitely. And they even broke down the food itself.
Yeah, I saw that. Kadanya versus bojanya.
Right. Kadanya is like hard food, snacks, things you chew. Distinct from bhojanya, which are the 5 main staples: rice, gruel, flour, fish, meat.
It sounds like they were trying to close any potential loopholes, like an ancient legal team.
They were certainly thorough, and what's really crucial to grasp is how the offense escalates. It depends on both the intent and the action.
Okay, explain that.
So If a nun just receives the food from an infatuated man, and she's also infatuated, and she intends to eat it,
Huh.
just the receiving with intent,
Yeah.
that's already an offense. It's called thulakaya, which is serious, but not the absolute top level.
Okay, so intent matters.
Intent matters. But if she actually swallows the food, the text says achohara achohar, like with every swallow. That's when it becomes a full Saṃghādisesa offense. And that is incredibly serious. Nisaranya is the term used.
Meaning?
Meaning it requires a formal meeting of the whole Sangha, the community, to address it. It could lead to things like temporary suspension, intense penance protocols. It's major.
So swallowing is the line. That's the full transgression. But even the intention to eat it after receiving it under those specific conditions is still a problem.
Exactly. It's not just the physical act. The mental state, the intention, is already part of the offense structure.
Fascinating.
And they didn't stop there. They even laid out scenarios for lesser offenses, just to be crystal clear.
Like what?
Well, for instance, if only one of them is infatuated, either the nun or the giver, but not both,
Okay.
then just receiving the food with intent to eat is only a dukkhaya. That's a relatively minor offense or wrongdoing. And swallowing it in that one-sided infatuation scenario, that bumps it up to thulakaya, that mid-level serious offense we mentioned.
Okay, so there's a clear hierarchy of offenses based on who's infatuated and whether the act is fully completed.
Precisely, dukkhaya, tilakaya, Saṃghādisesa. Minor, serious, very serious. It shows how carefully they differentiated based on the degree of infatuation and the stage of the action.
It's like they really tried to anticipate every possible permutation to keep things clear and maintain the integrity of the community.
Seems that way.
But surely there were exceptions, situations where a nun wouldn't be held responsible even if this happened.
Oh, absolutely. The texts are very clear about the exemptions. A nun isn't considered liable if neither she nor the giver are infatuated. Makes sense.
Yeah.
She's also exempt if she knows for sure the giver is not infatuated, even if maybe she herself feels something, or if she receives it without intending to eat it right then.
Okay.
And it doesn't apply if the nun is considered insane, not responsible for her actions.
Yeah.
And interestingly, it doesn't apply to the Adhikamekka,
What do you mean?
the first offender, basically.
Yeah.
The very person whose actions led to the rule being created in the first place.
So Sundarīnandā herself wouldn't have been penalized under this specific rule.
Correct, because the rule didn't exist until after her actions prompted it. It really highlights how these rules often emerge from specific real-world incidents, not just abstract principles.
So stepping back, what does this all really mean? It's actually surprising, isn't it? The sheer depth and specificity we find in ancient monastic law.
It is.
I mean, looking at this Saṃghādisesa rule, what seems like a simple act, receiving food, becomes this really layered ethical issue. And it hinges so much on intention, perception, the mental state of everyone involved. It's clearly not just some arbitrary restriction. It feels like a really profound recognition of how easily human desire, even something subtle like infatuation, could potentially disrupt the delicate balance and the integrity of a spiritual community.
It truly is. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, you see, these rules weren't just, bureaucratic nitpicking. Not at all. They seem meticulously designed. They're addressing very real challenges that arise when people live closely together, especially in a community focused on discipline.
Right.
It was about maintaining internal purity, sure, but also about protecting the community's external reputation with lay supporters.
Yeah.
That was crucial.
Yeah, the perception from outside.
Exactly. It just underscores this constant negotiation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Between what an individual does and the harmony of the group. And a deep understanding that even small acts can have significant ripple effects.
And I think understanding these historical examples, these precedents, it gives us a much richer perspective on challenges that are, frankly, universal. How humans behave, how we try to govern ourselves. It's not just about ancient Buddhist nuns, is it? It's about how any community, then or now, tries to set boundaries, tries to interpret actions, and tries to maintain its own integrity.
Which I think raises a really important question for you listening to this. How do our own modern societies, our communities, our workplaces, how do we create and interpret rules? Especially when things like perception and intent and communal well-being are involved. And maybe, what can we learn from the kind of precision, the foresight, that seems embedded in ancient codes like this Saṃghādisesa rule?